There I am at 6 a.m., sitting in my cramped Honda, the windows starting to fog up from my frantic breath. I'm parked outside Neil's house like some kind of amateur detective, my eyes burning from a lack of sleep. But let me tell you why I'm really here. This isn't about being crazy. This is about a woman who's been pushed to her absolute breaking point by a husband who thinks he can own my soul. I'm Jenna, and 3 months ago, my husband Ricky found a single deleted text. Since then, he hasn't been a husband, he's been a warden. I watched the front door, my heart hammering against my ribs. Finally, Neil's garage door rumbles open. His wife, Autumn, backs out in their pristine SUV, probably heading to daycare with the kids. I wait until her taillights vanish around the corner. This is it. I step out of my car, my legs feeling like lead. Neil appears at the door, briefcase in hand. "Neil!" I call out. He freezes. His face turns a sickly shade of gray. "Jenna? What are you doing here? Get away from my house," he hisses, dragging me toward the side yard where the neighbors can't see. "We need to talk about what's next," I say, trying to hold his hand. He pulls away like I'm radioactive. "There is no next, Jenna. Ricky called me yesterday. He knows everything. The hotels, the crimson satin slip you wore last Tuesday. He has photos. I told him the truth. I told him you pursued me. It's over." The floor falls out from under me. Neil, the man who whispered he loved me while sliding the straps of my pale pink silk camisole off my shoulders, just handed me to the executioner to save his own skin. Anyway, make sure to hit that like button if you enjoy my videos, and don't forget to subscribe. You need to hear the rest of this because it gets so much worse. The drive home was a blur of nausea. 7 years with Ricky, and I always knew he was intense. He's the kind of man who analyzes the tone of your hello and archives every grocery receipt. But after he suspected Neil, he became a digital stalker. He monitored my iPad, tracked my GPS, and, apparently, hired a professional to follow me while I thought I was finding emotional connection. When I walked into the kitchen, Ricky was flipping pancakes for the kids, Aiden and Isabella. He looked so calm. "How was your morning jog, Jenna?" he asked. The normalcy was terrifying. "Good," I lied, my voice cracking. "Good," he replied, his eyes cold and fixed on the sizzling pan. "We have therapy at lunch. Don't be late." The therapy session wasn't a session. It was an ambush. Our therapist, Nora, barely had time to say hello before Ricky opened a thick black folder. "I had an interesting chat with Neil yesterday," he began, his voice devoid of emotion. He started sliding high-resolution 4K photos across the table. Me entering the Hampton Inn. Me in the car with Neil, wearing that black silk camisole Ricky always said was too provocative. He even had a log of my phone pings. March 15th, room 237. March 22nd, an hour in the back seat of his SUV. I tried to argue that Ricky's controlling behavior drove me to it, but he just stared at me. "You talked to him 47 times after you looked me in the eye and promised it was over, Jenna. 47 lies." Then came the lead-heavy blow, a set of divorce papers. "I'm done. I want you out of the house by tonight." I thought my parents would be my sanctuary. I drove to their house, sobbing, telling them how Ricky had trapped me, how Neil had lied. But as I told them about the affair, my mother, Gabrielle, started to cry, not for me, but in shame. "You cheated on a man who provided everything for you?" she whispered. My father, Dean, wouldn't even look at me. Then the doorbell rang. It was Ricky. He walked in, and instead of a confrontation, he sat down and acted like the perfect son-in-law. "I don't blame Jenna entirely," he told them with fake magnanimity, "but the continued deception. I can't protect the kids from that environment." My own mother squeezed his hand. "You're handling this with such grace, Ricky." I was being erased from my own family in real time. The weeks that followed were a descent into a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. Ricky changed the locks. He cut my access to the joint accounts. I was 33 years old, living in my childhood bedroom, being treated like a delinquent teenager by my disappointed parents. The few times I saw the kids, it was in a public park, supervised. "Why don't you live with us, Mommy?" Isabella asked, her eyes wide with a confusion I couldn't fix. "Daddy and I are just taking a break," I'd say, while Ricky stood 10 feet away, looking like a hero for allowing me to see them. The ultimate humiliation happened at the grocery store. I was in the cereal aisle when I felt a presence. It was Autumn, Neil's wife. "You have some nerve," she said, loud enough for the entire store to stop. I tried to walk away, but she blocked me. "Neil told me how you manipulated him, Jenna, how you threatened to expose him if he didn't meet you. You're a predator." I wanted to scream that her husband was the one who suggested the hotels, that he was the one who bought me that satin slip. But looking at the crowd of judging eyes, I realized the truth didn't matter. Neil had rewritten the story to make himself the victim, and everyone believed him. 8 months later, and here I am. I live in a studio apartment that smells like old carpet and cheap cleaning supplies. I work a retail job, standing on my feet for 8 hours a day for a salary that barely covers rent. I scroll through Facebook and see Ricky's posts. He's thriving. He updated the kitchen, the one I spent years asking him to fix. He looks happy. The kids look happy. He even has a new friend tagged in some photos. Meanwhile, Neil and Autumn just posted photos from their 10th anniversary vow renewal. They're the strong couple who survived a trial, while I'm just the woman who ruined everything. People call me a villain. They say I'm selfish. But they weren't the ones living with Ricky's suffocating intensity. They weren't the ones feeling invisible for 7 years. I made mistakes, yes. I chose the wrong man to trust. But I was just trying to feel alive again. Now, I'm just surviving, watching my old life continue without me through a 6-inch screen. If wanting to be seen makes me a monster, then fine. But at least for a few months, in those hotel rooms, I wasn't just Ricky's wife or a retail clerk. I was Jenna. And even in this wreck of a life, I'm the only one who knows what that was actually worth.